All right, so get this. You want us to do a deep dive into the 5 a.m. Club, and the source material is a YouTube audiobook summary of Robin Sharma's work.
Okay.
So we're talking billionaires, beaches, a whole lot of self-improvement,
Right.
but delivered in a very informal way.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how they use storytelling to get these ideas across. It's
Yeah.
not just like dry concepts.
Right.
You're actually following this story of a billionaire disguised as a homeless man who is mentoring
Okay.
an entrepreneur and an artist
Oh, interesting.
who are both struggling in their own ways.
So it's kind of like a self-help parable.
Yeah.
So you're coming to us wanting to understand the core philosophy of this whole 5 a.m. thing. But more importantly, like, what's the practical stuff that you can apply to your own life?
Exactly.
Even if you're not quite ready to become part of the 5 a.m. Club.
Exactly. So let's start with that central premise.
Okay.
That waking up at 5 a.m. gives you this victory hour. Okay? This dedicated time before the world wakes up to focus on your personal and professional growth.
Okay, so you're saying even before all those distractions hit,
Yes.
I could be like boosting my productivity, enhancing my creativity,
Exactly.
maybe even squeezing in a workout.
Yeah, the book really emphasizes that, the wide-ranging benefits
Right.
of this victory hour. It even talks about tapping into a deeper sense of inner peace.
Which, let's face it,
Yeah.
we could all use a little bit more of that.
Absolutely.
So how does this victory hour actually work? Is there like a specific structure to it?
There is. It's called the 20-20-20 formula,
Okay.
and it's brilliantly simple.
Okay.
You divide that hour into 3 20-minute chunks.
Yeah.
So the first 20 minutes are all about move,
Okay.
intense exercise.
Okay, so we're not talking gentle stretches here. This is like pushing yourself.
Yeah, to get the blood pumping, sharpen your focus, even lift your mood.
Then you transition into
Then it's 20 minutes of reflect. So think journaling, meditation,
Right.
really taking the time to process your emotions
Okay.
and cultivate gratitude.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how this structure could be really beneficial.
Yeah.
It's like a balanced breakfast,
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
but for your mind and soul.
Exactly. And then the final 20 minutes are for grow.
Okay.
So this
Yeah.
is where you're expanding your knowledge and skills,
Okay.
through reading, learning,
Right.
whatever helps you feel like you're kind of leveling up.
All right, I'm hooked. This 20-20-20 formula
Yeah.
seems pretty doable, even for someone like me who's not exactly a morning person.
Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
The book also talks about what it calls the 4 interior empires.
Okay.
Think of these as like the pillars of a really strong inner foundation.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Right. Yeah, they are. Mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set.
Okay, break it down for me. What do each of these empires actually mean?
So let's start with mindset. This is all about cultivating a positive and growth-oriented outlook,
Okay.
which can be really helpful, especially if you're someone who is facing tough decisions in your career right now.
Okay.
The idea is that your thoughts shape your reality.
Uh-huh.
So if you can shift your mindset to be more positive
Right.
and proactive, it will positively impact your actions and your outcomes.
So it's like training your brain
Yes,
to
so-
be more optimistic and solution-focused.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, heart set focuses on managing emotions,
Okay.
practicing gratitude, and fostering compassion.
Okay.
So think of this as strengthening your emotional intelligence,
Right.
your resilience.
Yeah, I can definitely see the value in that,
Yeah.
especially,
In today's world where
in today's world where
it's so easy to get caught up in negativity and stress.
Exactly.
Health set is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's about prioritizing your physical well-being through exercise, nutrition,
Right.
and, of course,
Sleep. I'm already starting to feel healthier just thinking about it.
And last but not least,
Okay.
soul set.
Soul set.
This one is all about connecting with your sense of purpose,
Okay.
your values,
Right.
what truly matters to you.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But, let's be honest, forming new habits,
Yeah.
especially one as like potentially disruptive as waking up at 5 a.m.,
Yeah. It can be tough.
it can be tough. So does the audiobook offer any practical tips
It does.
on actually making this stick?
It calls it the habit installation protocol.
Okay.
Don't worry, it doesn't involve robots or brain implants or anything.
Brain implants. Okay, good.
But the first thing it emphasizes
Yeah, okay.
is the importance of consistency and persistence.
Okay, so no magic bullet, just
Right.
good old-fashioned
Right. Yeah, like building a muscle.
discipline.
Yeah. The more you practice these 5 a.m. habits,
Right?
the stronger they become.
Okay.
But it also highlights the power of community and
Yeah.
support systems. Remember that billionaire character?
Right.
He's constantly reminding the entrepreneur and the artist that they're not alone
Right.
in this journey, that having a support network can make a huge difference.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to stick to a plan when you have someone to
Right.
share the journey with you, someone to cheer you on.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
help you get back on track when you stumble.
The book also dives into this concept of
Okay.
teaching to learn.
Yeah.
The idea is that when you explain something to someone else,
Oh, that's so true.
you solidify your understanding of it.
I've definitely found that when I try to explain something to someone else, I'm like, wait a second,
You realize,
I don't really fully understand this myself.
and it encourages you to see that moment when you feel like quitting as an opportunity
Okay.
for a breakthrough. It's like that resistance you're feeling.
Right.
That's actually where the real growth happens.
Yeah, it's like a mental workout.
Exactly.
The more you challenge yourself, the stronger you become.
But it's important to remember that everyone's different.
Absolutely.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
So the book really encourages you to experiment, personalize your approach,
Okay.
and find what works best for you.
That's really refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
So many self-help books
Yeah.
can feel really prescriptive and rigid.
Uh-huh.
And it's nice to know that this book actually encourages individuality and flexibility.
It does.
But I have to ask, with all this talk of early rising,
Yeah?
what about sleep?
Right. You'd think a book about waking up at 5 a.m. would be all about sacrificing sleep.
Yeah.
But actually, it emphasizes that sleep is crucial
Okay.
for
Thanks.
peak performance.
I was getting a little worried we were endorsing sleep deprivation here.
No, absolutely not. The book actually dives into the science of sleep.
Oh, interesting.
It introduces this concept of 90-minute sleep cycles
Okay.
and suggests that aiming for 5 complete cycles, which is 7.5 hours, is ideal. And if you think about it, waking up at 5 a.m. after 7.5 hours of sleep
Right.
means you're hitting the hay around 9:30.
Right.
Not exactly unreasonable.
Not unreasonable at all.
So it's not just about waking up early.
Okay.
It's about optimizing your entire sleep routine
Right.
to maximize your energy and focus throughout the day.
Precisely.
And to help with that, the book lays out a pre-sleep ritual
Okay.
that can help you wind down
Okay.
and improve your sleep quality.
Give me an example.
So this involves things like ending screen time at least 90 minutes before bed.
Okay, that's a tough one.
I know.
I'm definitely guilty of scrolling right before bed.
But imagine if you use that traffic university concept we were just talking about
Right.
and turn that pre-sleep scrolling time into something that actually fuels your personal growth.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's like maximizing your time
Exactly.
and improving your well-being simultaneously.
Yeah.
I love that.
And, if you think about it, by setting yourself up for a good night's sleep,
Right.
you're actually setting yourself up for a more successful
Exactly.
victory hour the next morning. It's all connected.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here in part one,
We have.
exploring these foundational principles of the 5 a.m. Club.
Yeah, so from the victory hour
Yeah.
and that 20-20-20 formula to the 4 interior empires
Right.
and the surprisingly important role of sleep.
Yeah?
But don't worry, we're not done yet.
Okay.
We'll continue our journey in part 2,
I'm excited.
uncovering more insights and practical tips,
Okay, great.
and even a few thought-provoking questions to leave you pondering.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned.
All right, we'll be back. So in part one, we were talking about the 5 a.m. Club
Right?
and kind of some of the core principles, this
Yeah.
whole victory hour and 20-20-20 formula,
Yes.
and kind of unpacking those 4 interior empires.
Absolutely. It's really about creating this
It's-
holistic approach
Fun.
to personal development.
And what really stuck with me
Yeah.
was how the book doesn't really demonize sleep,
Right.
but instead actually emphasizes its importance.
It's not the enemy here.
Yeah, for overall well-being and peak performance.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into...
Let's dive into some more specifics
Okay,
from the source material.
okay.
One concept that I thought was really interesting was this idea of capitalization IQ,
Okay.
which really focuses on leveraging your natural talents.
Sometimes I feel like I spread myself too thin,
Uh-huh.
dabbling in a bunch of different things,
Yeah.
but not really excelling in any one area.
Right.
Does this relate at all to
It might.
this idea?
Yeah, the book highlights this work
Okay.
by psychologist James Flynn,
Okay.
who suggests that what separates legendary performers
Uh-huh.
from everyone else isn't necessarily raw talent,
Okay.
but their ability to fully develop and utilize their potential.
So it's not just about having talent, it's about
Oh,
really
no.
honing in on it
Exactly.
and making it work for you.
They use this great analogy
Okay.
about athletes.
Okay.
So think about it. A lot of the most successful athletes
Mm-hmm.
weren't necessarily born with, superior skills,
Right.
but they were incredibly dedicated,
Right.
driven to maximize their strengths, put in countless hours of practice.
Yeah. It's like that saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that.
Yeah.
Joining the 5 a.m. club allows you to really create that dedicated window each morning
Okay.
to work on those skills, develop your strengths,
Yeah.
and ultimately capitalize on your unique potential.
And that really ties back into this idea
Of the
of
crowds.
those micro wins and that day stacking.
It absolutely does. The book emphasizes
Okay.
that consistent small improvements,
Right.
when done consistently over time, lead to remarkable results.
So it's not about making drastic changes overnight. It's more about focusing on...
Right. It's about those small,
Yeah.
consistent steps
Mm-hmm.
that ultimately lead to big transformations.
Now, another idea that I found interesting was this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Oh, I've heard that. It's like, if you believe you're going to fail,
Yeah.
you're more likely to act in ways that sabotage your success,
Exactly.
which then just reinforces your initial belief.
Right. It's a vicious cycle.
But the flip side is also true.
But the flip side is also true.
Right. Like if you cultivate these empowering beliefs about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you're more likely to take actions that actually lead to success.
Exactly.
So it's almost like a positive feedback loop
Yeah.
for personal growth.
It is. And the book encourages you to challenge any of those limiting beliefs that you might have
Right.
and replace them with more empowering ones.
So it's almost like rewiring your internal programming to support your goals
Yeah, exactly.
and aspirations.
And speaking of aspirations, sir, let's dig a little bit deeper into the 4 interior empires.
Okay.
The book really emphasizes
Mm-hmm.
cultivating these inner strengths
Okay.
as essential for a fulfilling and successful life.
I'm particularly interested in heart set,
Yeah?
which we talked about focuses on
Emotional well-being.
emotional well-being.
Uh-huh.
It's so easy to neglect our emotional health,
It is.
especially in our fast-paced, always-on culture.
And that's why the book really emphasizes
Yeah.
the importance of
Oh, okay.
managing our emotions, not suppressing them,
Right.
but, cultivating healthy coping mechanisms
Right.
and practicing emotional intelligence.
One practical tip that I remember it offering
Yeah.
was incorporating a gratitude practice
Yes.
into your morning routine.
And what's fascinating about gratitude
Yeah.
is that when you focus on what you're grateful for,
Right.
it shifts your perspective and it helps you appreciate the good, even when things are tough.
It's almost like...
It's about actively training your mind
Yeah.
to focus on the positive.
Right. So instead of dwelling on what's wrong,
Uh-huh.
you're choosing to focus on
Yeah.
what's right,
What's right.
which can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But gratitude isn't about ignoring
Right.
negative emotions, right?
Yeah. It's not about
It's about
toxic positivity.
it's about feeling the feelings
Right.
and processing difficult emotions.
I remember it using this really powerful analogy.
Yeah.
It compares those unprocessed emotions to
Toxic sludge.
toxic sludge
Yes.
that's accumulating within us, blocking our creativity and hindering our growth.
It's a vivid image.
It is. It is.
And it highlights the importance of addressing those emotions,
Yeah.
finding healthy ways to process and release them
Okay.
rather than letting them fester.
So we've covered mindset. We've covered heart set. What about health set?
Right.
That was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, like prioritizing physical well-being.
The book is a big proponent of exercise,
Okay.
especially in the morning.
Does it suggest any types of workouts, or is it more about
No, it really emphasizes
just getting moving?
finding activities that you enjoy
Okay.
and that fit your fitness level.
Okay.
So it could be anything from running, swimming, to dancing, yoga.
So finding what works for you.
Yes.
And making it a consistent part of your routine.
And they point out
Yeah.
that regular physical activity
Right.
not only improves your physical health,
Right.
but also enhances your cognitive function,
Right. Yeah.
boosts your mood, increases your energy levels.
Okay, so we're moving our bodies. We're reflecting on our thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
We're taking care of our physical health. What about that final empire?
Right, the soul set.
The soul set seems a little
It can be.
more abstract.
It can be, but it's also incredibly important.
Yeah.
The book really emphasizes the importance of connecting with your sense of purpose and meaning.
So like understanding your values.
Exactly.
Discovering your passion.
Yes, living in alignment with your core beliefs.
It's almost like figuring out what makes you tick.
Yeah, what gets you excited.
Yeah.
What makes you feel like you're contributing something meaningful.
Makes you feel alive.
Exactly.
And it warns that when you neglect your soul set, you might experience those feelings of
Emptiness.
Emptiness.
Satisfaction.
Yeah, even if you're achieving.
Even if you're achieving
like success.
Outward success, right?
Right. So it's like you can achieve all the goals and the accolades in the world.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing something that resonates with your soul, it won't feel fulfilling.
Wow.
And it really encourages you to prioritize
It does.
activities that bring you joy.
Yes, whether it's spending time in nature,
Right.
engaging in creative pursuits, volunteering for a cause you care about.
Right.
Anything that really nourishes your spirit.
This is making me think about that provocative thought we talked about in part 1 about letting your enthusiasm lead the way.
It's all connected.
The 5 a.m. club isn't just about
it's about creating a life.
Productivity and achievement.
That is.
It's about creating a life.
Successful.
That is both.
And deeply fulfilling.
Yeah.
And that means nurturing all aspects of your being.
This has been so insightful. I'm already starting to see
it's great.
how these concepts can be applied to my own life.
Yeah.
But before we move on to part 3, I'm curious how, with all this talk about optimizing our mornings and evenings, how does it address dealing with distractions and staying focused?
That's where this concept of the tight bubble of total focus comes in.
Okay.
Think of it as this.
That sounds intense.
I know.
Like you're a superhero?
Yeah.
With a force field against distractions.
But think of it as this metaphorical shield that you create around yourself.
Right.
To really block out distraction.
Yeah, because we're constantly bombarded these days with distractions from social media notifications to emails to, you know, the lure of mindless web browsing.
The book really doesn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
It compares distractions to thieves.
Okay.
Stealing our time, our energy, our creative potential.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, very true.
It is.
So how do you actually create this tight bubble?
It offers a couple of practical tips.
Okay.
Like setting aside dedicated work blocks.
Okay.
Minimizing technology use.
Okay.
Creating a distraction-free workspace.
So it's really about being intentional with your time and your environment to really minimize those interruptions.
Yes.
And maximize that focus.
And it goes back to that 99-to-1 rule.
Yes.
You know, dedicating the first 90 minutes of your workday.
To your most important task.
To your most important task.
Without interruptions.
So that you can really tackle that crucial work.
So it's like front-loading your day.
It is.
With the most important stuff.
Yeah.
So that even if things get crazy later on, you've already made significant progress.
You've got it.
Now, before we wrap up part 2, I want to revisit the topic of sleep.
Okay.
You know, we touched on it earlier, but
it's so important.
It's so important that it's worth emphasizing again.
It is.
You know, in our kind of productivity-obsessed culture, sleep is often seen as a luxury.
Yeah.
Or a sign of weakness.
The book challenges that.
Okay.
Emphasizing that sleep is not about being lazy.
Right.
It's about taking care of your most valuable asset.
Right, yourself.
Yourself.
And as we said, it recommends aiming for
5 complete 90-minute sleep cycles.
Yeah.
Which is 7.5 hours of sleep.
Per night.
And it also emphasizes the importance of a consistent sleep routine.
Okay.
And a relaxing pre-sleep ritual.
Right. Ending screen time at least 90 minutes before bed.
Yes.
Dimming the lights. Creating that calm bedroom environment.
Absolutely.
All those little things.
It's all part of setting yourself up for a good night's sleep.
Right.
Which in turn sets you up for a more successful victory hour.
It's all connected.
It is.
This is really making me realize that the 5 a.m. club isn't just about waking up early. It's about creating this holistic approach
to your day.
Incorporating both those productive morning routines and those restorative evening rituals.
Absolutely.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah, it's about balance.
Between striving for excellence And
prioritizing self-care.
And prioritizing self-care.
Yeah.
And with that insightful observation,
we've reached the end of part 2
of our deep dive
into the 5 a.m. club.
But our journey isn't over yet.
It's not.
In part 3, we're going to explore the final chapters of the audiobook.
Yes.
Where the billionaire mentor reveals his 10 tactics of lifelong genius. This is a set of strategies for achieving sustainable success and living an extraordinary life.
So stay tuned.
We'll be back. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the 5 a.m. club.
It's been a journey.
It has. You know, we've been exploring this whole idea of the victory hour, the 20-20-20 formula, understanding the 4 interior empires.
Right. It's all about creating a life that's successful and fulfilling.
And in part 2, we even got into some of the
nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty, capitalization IQ, leveraging your talents, the self-fulfilling prophecy.
And in this final part, we're going to explore the last little bits of wisdom from this billionaire mentor, Mr. Riley. And we're going to focus on his 10 tactics of lifelong genius.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So these are strategies that are designed to help you achieve sustainable success, not just like a fleeting burst.
Sustainable success sounds a lot better than just burning out after a couple weeks of intense effort.
Exactly.
So give me some of these genius tactics.
Well, the first one we've already touched on.
Okay.
The tight bubble of total focus.
Right, creating that distraction-free environment so you can concentrate on your most important tasks.
Giving yourself permission to really be present with your work.
So instead of trying to...
instead of multitasking. Juggling a million things.
You're laser focused on one thing at a time.
Exactly.
Does the book offer any tips on actually achieving that level of focus?
Because
let's be real,
and
distractions are everywhere.
It recommends things like setting clear boundaries, like work blocks, minimizing technology use when you need to concentrate, even creating a physical workspace that's free of clutter and distractions.
And that reminds me of that 9-0-9-1 rule, which is also about prioritizing that most important task.
Another tactic that I thought was really helpful is the daily 5 concept. So this is deceptively simple, but incredibly effective. Basically, you identify 5 small, achievable goals that you want to accomplish each day. And write them down.
I love that. It's like breaking down those big, overwhelming goals into smaller chunks.
Exactly.
That feel much more manageable.
Yeah, and it creates momentum. Each small win builds upon the last. Propelling you forward.
Speaking of momentum, have you ever tried this
Traffic
University thing? I've dabbled in it, listening to podcasts or audiobooks while I'm in traffic.
But imagine if you consistently use that time. To learn something new. To catch up on industry trends, even to listen to something inspiring.
That's a great way to reframe it.
Instead of seeing it as wasted time. See it as an opportunity for growth.
It's all about perspective.
It is.
And speaking of reframing things, Mr. Riley also talks about this second wind workout. Which I thought was an interesting concept. It's basically incorporating a second workout into your day.
Ideally in the late afternoon or early evening.
To combat that afternoon slump?
Exactly.
A second workout? I don't know if I have the energy for that.
It doesn't have to be anything intense.
It
could be a brisk walk, a yoga session, a quick bike ride.
So it's just about...
It's about strategically incorporating movement throughout the day to maintain energy levels and boost your mood.
So like giving yourself a physical and mental
reset. And finally, one of the most important tactics, in my opinion, is building your dream team. And this isn't just about work. It's about surrounding yourself with people who can help you.
So colleagues, mentors, friends, family.
People who inspire you.
Your support system. So it could be...
It could involve delegating tasks, outsourcing responsibilities, or simply seeking guidance and advice from people you trust.
So it's about recognizing...
you don't have to do everything alone.
You don't have to go it alone.
Now, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the 5 a.m. club, I want to highlight a couple of overarching themes that really resonated with me.
I'm all ears.
One is this emphasis on joy. as a guiding force. Remember that provocative thought about letting your enthusiasm lead the way.
Right.
It's about pursuing activities that bring you joy.
And that ties back into that whole idea of nurturing your soul set.
Right.
Connecting with your values, living a life that feels
authentic
and meaningful.
Another key takeaway is this idea of balance.
Okay.
The book really stresses the importance of balancing ambition with humility.
It's like striving for excellence.
Yeah, but not being afraid to make mistakes.
Right, to learn, to grow.
To grow.
Along the way.
And finally, the 5 a.m. Club really emphasizes this transformative power of service and contribution.
Okay.
It suggests that when we focus on making a positive impact.
So it's not just about personal growth, it's about using your talents and abilities to really make a difference.
It's about leaving a positive legacy.
Wow.
And on that note,
I
think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
This has been quite an exploration.
It has.
We've unpacked so many practical tips.
Yeah, I know.
Thought-provoking insights, inspiring strategies.
Hopefully this deep dive is giving you the information
and
inspiration you need.
To take action.
Whether
Whether it's setting your alarm for 5 a.m., trying out that 20-20-20 formula, or just incorporating 1 or 2 new habits into your routine.
Absolutely.
Remember, your potential is limitless.
It is.
And until next time, keep those minds curious, those hearts open,
Yes.
and keep striving to become the best version of yourself.
Absolutely.